Ethan and I had a marriage of convenience that blossomed into love after we married. We had a son and a daughter, and our life was fairly harmonious and happy. Until Ethan showed up with a strange woman, claiming she was the new housekeeper he had hired. They acted intimately. Although they deliberately kept some distance, I saw at a glance, she was the college student Ethan and I had sponsored before. My expression remained unchanged, but deep down I knew that this marriage alliance was already a mere formality. "Claire, this is Joanna, a top graduate from High University. Didn't you tell me the kids need a high-level nanny?" Ethan eagerly introduced the woman by his side to me. This kind of enthusiasm was rare. It only happened in the first few years after we got married. After having children, we treated each other with more respect and distance. In recent years, Ethan had become increasingly busy, spending much less time with the kids. I had complained to him that as the children grew older, they needed their father's company and a higher standard of tutoring. My intention was to get him to spend more time with the kids. Unexpectedly, he came home with a stranger and wanted me to keep her on to educate our children. "Sister-in-law, hello, I'm Joanna. Your home is so big and beautiful." Joanna's gaze swept around the room before finally settling on the diamond ring on my hand. A hint of greed flickered in her eyes, but she hid it well and quickly looked away. Looking at her charming and delicate face, I slowly said, "Sister-in-law? Who's your sister-in-law? No manners at all. Call me madam." The color drained from Joanna's face immediately, tears welling up in her eyes as she looked at Ethan pitifully and plaintively. I deliberately put Joanna in her place just to see Ethan's reaction. Sure enough, a hint of reluctance showed on Ethan's face, and he turned to scold me. "Claire, how have you become so petty all of a sudden?" Actually, this wasn't the first time I dealt with something like this. Years ago, I helped Ethan clean up the messes behind his back. Mistresses number 3, 4, 5? As long as they didn't cause a scene in front of me, I treated them like passing winds. Ethan and I had always maintained this unspoken understanding. No matter how he played outside, he couldn't bring it home, and he certainly couldn't disturb my life with the kids. Until Joanna. She was the first woman Ethan brought home besides me. My prediction was right, Joanna was no easy catch. I asked her to help in the kitchen, and she nearly blew up the carefully renovated kitchen I had done. Ethan rushed back from the office in broad daylight to plead for her. When the children were sick before, I asked him to take a day off to come see them. The answer was always a refusal. "Madam, I'm sorry, I've never cooked before." Joanna hid behind Ethan, apologizing to me pitifully. Before I could say anything, Ethan comforted her. "It's okay, Joanna. Girls aren't meant to cook, that's the rough work for servants." I looked at Ethan, my heart twisted as if someone had squeezed it, sour and bitter. When he had stomach problems before, I personally sought prescriptions from an old Chinese doctor and cooked medicinal meals for him. As the eldest daughter of the Thompson family, the first time I cooked, my hands were covered in burns. At that time, he was both dressing my wounds and applying ice packs, even saying that my medicinal dishes were delicious and that he wanted me to make them for him by hand from now on. Now, however, he says cooking is a servant's job. "Ethan." I called out to him, reminding him, "Is Joanna here to be a wealthy wife? Didn't you say she can do everything?" A hint of embarrassment flashed across Ethan's face, as if he suddenly realized where he was. But he still pleaded with me. "Claire, Joanna was originally a top student, she can't do these chores. You should let her spend more time teaching our children. Didn't you say their curriculum has been intensified again?" I gave Ethan a cold glance. I sent Joanna to the kitchen precisely because I didn't want her to have contact with my children. This wasn't the first time I had met Joanna. Back when Ethan and I graduated from High University, the school invited us to establish the Claire Scholarship to support impoverished students on campus. Joanna was among the first recipients. At that time, she was obedient and polite, calling me sister and promising she would repay me after graduation. I never expected it would be in this way. "Aunt Martha, take Miss Joanna to the 3rd floor." At this point, I was unusually calm. Aunt Martha glanced at me with concern and took Joanna into the elevator. The third floor was where my son Leo and daughter Tina's rooms were, a place Joanna had never been allowed to approach before. Seeing my approval, a pleased expression appeared on Ethan's face as he came over and wrapped his arm around me. "Claire, Joanna is a very responsible girl and especially fond of children. She will definitely be able to take good care of our kids. You don't need to worry too much." He thought I was still as easy to coax as before, that I would casually believe whatever he said. I stared at the man I once loved. Seeing him sell smiles for Joanna made me feel utterly disgusted. His constant affairs over the years had hardened my heart. Yet, seeing how much he cared for Joanna still made a dull ache stir deep within me. Ethan didn't notice. Seeing Joanna playing happily with Leo and Tina in the children's room, he patted my shoulder. "See, I told you the kids would really like Joanna. She's a very loving little girl." My husband, praising another woman in front of me, saying she was raising my child well. The fact that I didn't tear Ethan apart on the spot was already a testament to my restraint. When our two families chose to unite in marriage, it was largely because Ethan was poor at business. Though the Thompson family wasn't as powerful as the Caldwell family, under my management, its scale had multiplied several times over compared to before. This was also why his parents chose me to be the young mistress of the Caldwell family. I hold a great deal of influence in the company, to the point where my word is almost law. But Ethan despises my domineering nature. He even said that seeing me steamroll him put him in a bad mood all day. He urged me to return to the family, to properly guide and accompany Leo and Tina as they grow up, leaving the outside matters to him. He said I only needed to be a pampered socialite. He promised to support me for life. I believed him. When I was still working while pregnant, my health took a hit, and I wanted to take the opportunity to recuperate. But the first thing he did was kick all my team members out. Rationally, I understood his actions, but emotionally, I could never forgive him. It was from that day on that I realized I could never be a bird kept in his backyard. Otherwise, I would die without a trace, with no place to be buried. "Mummy, Mummy." Tina, my daughter, ran over with tears on her face. "Are you going to leave?" I asked her why she was asking that. "Aunt Joanna said she's going to be my mommy soon." "Mummy, where are you going? Don't you want Tina anymore?" The childish sobs rang in my ears, and I couldn't suppress the anger burning inside me. I'm not even dead yet, and they're already scheming. "Sweetheart, Mommy isn't going anywhere." I held her small body close, soothing her softly. "Ouch, Mummy," Tina cried out, then quickly lowered her voice. I sensed something was wrong and immediately checked her body. There were bruised finger marks on the inside of her arm, already dark purple, hidden beneath her clothes and hard to see. "Tina. What's going on?" At first, Tina refused to explain, but after I pressed her repeatedly, she whispered, "I got the answers wrong, and Aunt Joanna punished me." I felt like my mind had been blown apart, then I heard her choke out, "Brother's thigh was punished by Aunt Joanna too. Aunt Joanna said if you get it wrong, you have to be hit." I held Tina tightly, heart aching, then stormed up to the third floor and kicked open the study door. Joanna jumped in surprise, quickly standing up with a forced smile. "Madam, do you have any instructions for me?" "Leo, come here." I took them back to the room, carefully checked every inch, took photos, preserved evidence, and contacted a lawyer. I was really foolish. I kept Joanna around just to see what tricks she might pull. I never expected her to openly target my children. Leo and Tina are my bottom line. No one is allowed to touch them. I can't keep Joanna any longer. I called Aunt Martha over to closely watch Leo and Tina while I dealt with Joanna. Unexpectedly, she came to me on her own. The moment I opened the door, she was kneeling before me, tears streaming down like rain. "Madam, please tell me what Joanna did wrong to deserve this treatment from you. I beg you to give me a clear answer. It's really strange, the villain complains first, and then drags me, the victim, into it. You know very well what you did to Leo and Tina. I've seen this trick before with mistresses and side lovers. it doesn't faze me at all. Seeing me see through her, Joanna's eyes flicker with panic. Madam, you misunderstand. Kids are like this, a little punishment will teach them a lesson. I slapped sharply. The hand landed, not on her, but on Ethan, who rushed forward to shield Joanna. I coldly watched the several finger marks slowly appear on Ethan's face. Just right, maybe this will sober him up. Ethan. Are you okay? Joanna clutched Ethan protectively, looking at me with stubborn, pitiful eyes. Madam, if you want to hit someone, hit me, don't hit Ethan. Joanna, don't be afraid, I'm here. She won't dare to hurt you. Ethan pulled her hand down and held her close, comforting her patiently. I found it amusing. It made me look like some kind of villain. Claire. Ethan roared, I thought what Joanna told me about you hitting and scolding her was a lie, but I never expected you to be so vicious. If I hadn't come, would you have beaten her to death? It was the first time I'd seen Ethan so furious. The two children hid behind, watching me quietly, whispering, Mommy. Aunt Martha came over and asked if we should take the kids away so they wouldn't see us arguing. I waved her off. My children, if they don't go through these storms, how can they grow up safely? Let them watch. They need to see what kind of person their father really is. Ethan, if you're not going to work properly at the company, what are you coming back for? If I didn't come back, how could I watch you bully Joanna? Joanna leaned weakly against Ethan's chest, crying pitifully. Ethan, I'm fine. Don't get mad at the madam because of me. Martha Auntie couldn't stand their tea-time chatter any longer. She spat and scolded her harshly, shameless. Only then did Ethan notice the children behind Auntie Martha. His brow furrowed as he scolded, hurry up and take Leo and Tina away. How can you let the kids see this? I sneered, surprisingly, you still remember. You're still the father of those kids. If anyone didn't know, they'd think the one in your arms is your wife who's bearing your children. Ethan's face darkened as I pressed on the hidden scar in his heart. Claire, what on earth are you causing a scene about? I pointed at Joanna. Ask her yourself about what she did to the child. Now I'm kicking her out. Immediately, right now. Ethan looked at Joanna in confusion. Joanna shook her head frantically, crying as she clung to my leg. Madam, I was wrong. I didn't mean it. If I lose this job, I'll have nowhere to go but the streets. Please, madam, spare me this once. I'll work like a beast to take care of you from now on. She even started kowtowing right then and there. I remained unmoved. Seeing Joanna about to bleed from her forehead, Ethan exploded. He helped Joanna up while pointing at me and shouting, if anyone's leaving, it's you. This is the house I bought. I suddenly looked at Ethan, never expecting him to say such things to me. I returned to the old house with the children. Grandpa and Grandma were naturally happy to see their grandchildren back and didn't think much of it. It was only when they saw that I was staying for a long time, with no intention of going back, that Aunt Martha began to question me carefully. That's when they found out I had been kicked out by Ethan. But they only knew this much, they didn't know Ethan had thrown me out because of a woman. They just assumed it was a quarrel between husband and wife. Over the years, since marrying into the Caldwell family, I had managed everything meticulously. I even gave the Caldwell family 2 children. Although they were my in-laws, they treated me very well. The moment they heard Ethan had kicked me out, they immediately went to confront him. But both of them returned empty-handed. They didn't even get to see Ethan before being told he had gone on a business trip out of town. I had already learned this through Ethan's secretary. I also knew that Ethan's so-called business trip was actually a getaway with Joanna. A few days later, my father-in-law saw me crying heartbroken and asked what had happened. I handed him the divorce agreement Ethan sent me, trembling as I said, Dad, Ethan wants to divorce me. What happened? Was it just a few arguments? How did it come to divorce? Just then, my mother-in-law came back from picking up Leo and Tina from school and was quite surprised to hear this. The children, seeing me so upset, climbed up to hug me, their little voices saying, Mommy, don't be sad. I only have you as my mommy, and I won't recognize anyone else as my mom." Seeing there was more to the story, my father-in-law and mother-in-law asked Aunt Martha to take the children away. Then they asked me what exactly had happened. With tears in my eyes, I covered my face and told them everything Ethan had done. Now, because of Joanna, he wants to divorce me and doesn't even want the children. Seeing their shocked expressions, a flicker of relief passed through me. Over the years, I had handled one mess after another for Ethan, all to prevent any issues with the joint projects between our families. It wasn't that their son's abilities had suddenly improved, it was simply that I had his back. Now Ethan was clearly getting cocky, thinking I had been spoiled by him. Little did he know, I had always been quietly lurking in the shadows, ready to pull the rug out from under him and bring him crashing down in an instant. My in-laws had originally wanted to persuade me not to divorce. But after I laid everything bare, they too felt their son had acted unfairly. Especially since both children were with me. They realized the gravity of the situation and decided to call my parents over to make a decision. After all, our two families were joined by a business marriage. All cooperation was out in the open, and any slight misstep could shake the stock market, causing losses that would affect both families' shared assets. Having been married for so many years, the interests of both families were tightly bound together. During this time, they kept calling Ethan. At first, the phone rang a few times before being hung up, and eventually, it just showed as powered off. "Dad, stop calling. He's currently on his honeymoon with Joanna and has no time for us." I wore a sorrowful expression, but inside I was quietly igniting a fire. My father-in-law, furious, threw his phone down and cursed, "Ungrateful child." My parents arrived quickly. After I explained that I helped Ethan handle the scandal to protect the interests of both our families, my father-in-law and mother-in-law showed relief and approval. My mother looked at me with pity. My father smashed his cup on the floor. The Thompson family can certainly afford to raise daughters, and we would never let a Thompson child recognize a woman of questionable character as their mother. With that, he pulled me up. "Claire, let's go. If the Caldwell family doesn't want you and the child, we'll raise them ourselves." My grandparents quickly got up to mediate, coaxing and persuading until they finally got my father to sit down. The four elders stared at the divorce agreement Ethan had sent over. Two looked guilty, while the other two questioned him. "What do we do now?" "Old brother, you tell us," my father said. "I'm not covering for that ungrateful son, but the kids are already so grown up. It wouldn't be right to let them lose their father at such a young age." In their old-fashioned mindset, this was indeed a big issue. They held a deeply rooted principle, that the ones who suffer most from divorce are the children. So, for the sake of the kids, they all advocated reconciliation over separation, even if it meant creating a pair of resentful spouses. I had anticipated this and pulled out a recording I had prepared long ago. "Ethan, will you really marry me? But with how formidable my sister-in-law is, when do you think you'll be able to divorce her?" "Soon, don't rush, Joanna." "How soon exactly?" "I've been with you for years, and I don't even have an official status." After a moment of silence, Ethan's hoarse voice slowly came through. "In a while, I'll have Claire travel abroad, and then find someone, to make sure she stays there forever." This was recorded when the two of them were having an affair in the backyard. It clearly captured Ethan and another woman plotting to take my life. The four elders were so shocked they were speechless. I quickly squeezed out tears and said with grievance, "Mom, Dad, Grandpa, Grandma, it's not that I can't continue living with Ethan. If Ethan finds another woman, I could just turn a blind eye like before. But now, Ethan wants me dead for another woman. I really can't dare to let that happen. Leo and Tina are still so young, I can't let them lose their mother this early." After I finished speaking, my mother immediately hugged me with a heart full of pain. "Claire, don't be afraid. Mom and Dad are here. Let's see who dares to bully you." My father-in-law and mother-in-law wore embarrassed expressions. Over the past few years, they had thought their son had changed for the better, but it turned out he was still the same jerk. They were disappointed in Ethan as well. My father-in-law stood up. "Don't be afraid, Claire. Your mom and I are on your side." I had long anticipated this scene. After all, since getting married, I had been very filial to the two elders, treating them like my own parents. People's hearts aren't blind, they naturally sensed it. With the support of these elders, I felt reassured. I then revealed my true purpose. "Mom, Dad, the most important thing now is to prevent Ethan from transferring our family's assets to someone else." Father snorted coldly. "The Thompson family has always been managed by Claire, there's no question of transferring that authority." Father-in-law and mother-in-law exchanged a glance. Father-in-law made up his mind and said in a deep voice, "We will draft a will stating that all the Caldwell family's assets will belong to Leo and Tina. Additionally, I will lead the board to revoke Ethan's management rights and appoint Claire as his replacement." I smiled with satisfaction. The power of the Thompson family has always been in my hands. In recent years, Ethan gradually pushed me out of the management circle, unaware that I had been secretly controlling all the moves. Now, with the help of my in-laws, I'm reclaiming power. Everything is falling into place. Once Ethan and Joanna receive the news and return from vacation, everything will be turned upside down. The board has already re-elected me to take over Ethan's duties. The process is more than halfway complete. Ethan stared at the empty office, his face full of anger. He never expected Claire to cut the ground from under his feet and push him out directly. "Former CEO, don't linger in my office. Grab your things and get out," I said with a faint sneer. Around us, employees gathered, watching the spectacle. Ethan's face fell, he snapped angrily, "Get lost. If you're not working, what are you doing hanging around here?" But no one moved. I could tell he was about to blow a fuse in my company. I ordered the crowd to disperse and get back to their tasks. Seeing the employees obey, Ethan grew even more furious. He cursed them all as ungrateful traitors. When Joanna arrived at the company and saw Ethan had been sidelined, her expression stiffened. Witnessing Ethan's raging fury firsthand, she carefully maintained her composed persona and approached him with tender, soothing words. I looked at this pair of scheming lovers and rolled my eyes. Then I dialed the security office. "I've got a pair of wild lovebirds causing trouble here. Send someone up to handle it." Seeing that I was serious, Ethan couldn't stay here any longer. Deliberately, in front of me, he asked Joanna, "Are you willing to leave with me?" A flicker of embarrassment crossed Joanna's face, but she quickly said she was willing. Ethan put his arm around Joanna and, with a tough air, declared he was going to start his own business. Then he swaggered away from me. "Claire, just wait, soon you'll be begging me on your knees." I watched them leave as if they were lunatics. I knew Ethan had secretly set up a company outside. Sometimes, projects from both families were quietly handled by that company. But what he didn't know was that as long as I wanted, I could make sure that company couldn't survive. Turning around, I ran into Ethan again at the bidding meeting. His presence here didn't surprise me. As long as you're not a fool, who wouldn't see the huge development potential and capital value of the Lyuan land? After the meeting ended, everyone else left. I deliberately waited for a while. Ethan was packing up, about to leave, when I called out, "Ethan." His fingertips trembled slightly. I asked him why he had changed. Didn't he promise to love me forever? Ethan was silent for a long time before slowly revealing the truest thoughts in his heart. "Claire, no one likes a woman smarter than the man." In the past, I would have held back my sharpness, willingly becoming the woman who silently supported him from behind. But now, I sneered coldly, "That only proves that man is useless." I left him with my secretary, catching a glimpse of his clenched jaw out of the corner of my eye. I had given him a chance, but he refused it. Then he can't blame me for being ruthless. I used a company affiliated with my family to bid, signing the full name of Ethan's company on the bid documents. I reported him for collusion. Unsurprisingly, this piece of land ended up in my hands. When Ethan found out, he stormed into my office with investigators. This woman did it on purpose. She deliberately sabotaged my bid. After the investigators presented their credentials, they began looking into the matter. Ethan watched me bring trouble upon myself, a sinister smile creeping across his face. I don't know what Mr. Ethan means, Kevin, you explain it. Kevin used to be Ethan's secretary. Actually, he has always been on my side. He was also among the first sponsors of the Clare Scholarship. A traitor. Ethan cursed Kevin, his expression as if he wanted to devour him. Kevin calmly pushed his glasses down. The investigators questioned him about why Ethan's company name was signed on the bid documents. When Ethan first asked me to handle this bid, then he got reassigned, and the bid just stalled. Maybe I got confused and forgot to make the changes. That was my oversight, it won't happen again next time. I smiled, looking at Ethan with a hint of challenge. The investigators exchanged glances and could only offer a few verbal warnings. Besides, they were a married couple, no one really knew what was going on. Both spouses were fighting over the same piece of land. Bidding itself is already a gray area, and now that they've said this, naturally the investigation couldn't proceed. Ethan's mind seemed flooded with confusion. He blocked the investigators from leaving and shouted at them for being irresponsible. Claire did it on purpose. Have you taken bribes from her or what? The two investigators' expressions changed, and they sternly warned Ethan. Mr. Ethan, if you continue to slander deliberately, we will truthfully take you to court. Ethan looked distressed, his hands unwillingly clenched at his sides. In the end, he cowardly stepped aside. I had Kevin escort the others out. The spacious, bright office was left with just the two of us. Ethan glanced around, this used to be his office, but now it had been renamed and taken over. I looked at Ethan's resentful, dissatisfied, yet helpless expression. I couldn't have felt more pleased. Ethan, how much longer do you plan to stay in my office? His face stiffened. Thinking he could still use Joanna to hurt me, he deliberately said, Claire, Joanna is already carrying my child. Don't be shameless and stubborn, sign the divorce papers quickly. Don't think that deliberately causing trouble for me will make me pay more attention to you. I gagged right in front of him. How come I never noticed your face was this big before, Ethan? Get lost, or I'll call security. My feelings for Ethan had long since worn away. The reason I hadn't divorced him immediately was twofold. First, I needed to explain everything clearly to the kids and fully understand their stance before making a decision. Fortunately, both children were very supportive of me. Second, I had suddenly become CEO of Caldwell Group and needed to stabilize morale, keeping the stock market steady or even rising. I had already secured the land from Lu Yuan. Now, the divorce could naturally be put on the agenda. Half a month later, outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, Ethan and I had just gotten our divorce certificate. Right after, Ethan went to get a marriage certificate with Joanna. Ethan went to get the car, and Joanna, beaming with happiness, flaunted it in front of me. Sister, I now have Ethan's baby, and we've gotten married. You'll bless me, won't you? My gaze swept over her pregnant belly, but I felt nothing. Just a bit of pity for her. Joanna, let's go. There's no point in talking to this vicious woman. Right now, the most important thing is to protect our child. This tender and affectionate display. Luckily, I didn't let Leo and Tina come along. Letting them keep a good image of their father in their hearts is the greatest kindness I can show Ethan. As for me, I'm not sad at all. I have already obtained what I wanted most, power. Is there anything better than that? Especially over just one man. Ethan overestimates himself. He still thinks I would be jealous and fight over him like Joanna did. Half a year later. Ethan's company is mismanaged and facing bankruptcy. Meanwhile, I merged the two companies, and mine grew stronger by the day. Business is business, Ethan's company collapses, and everyone is swarming to grab a piece of the pie. I have no reason not to claim my share of the assets. It's like picking up money on the street. When everyone is scrambling, pretending to be noble gets you nothing. I see things clearly. The plan is proceeding smoothly, just as expected. Boss, someone is refusing to leave the company entrance, insisting on seeing you, Kevin reported to me. I had thought it would be Ethan. It's Joanna, Kevin's answer genuinely surprised me for a moment. Let her in. Kevin brought Joanna over, and before she even reached me, she dropped to her knees with a thud. Claire. Please, save Ethan. If you don't help us, Ethan is truly at his wit's end. I looked up and saw the large diamond ring on her hand. After the divorce, Ethan wanted it back, saying he had bought it. Yet here it was, worn by Joanna. I lifted my chin slightly, indicating the 10-carat diamond ring on my hand. If you just sell this big diamond, it won't completely save Ethan's company, but at least it can cover most of it. Joanna's crying stopped abruptly, and she immediately covered the large diamond ring with her hand. When she realized what was happening, her face flushed bright red with shame. I didn't have the patience to waste on her, so I waved my hand and told Kevin to take her downstairs. Joanna was shameless, playing dirty to the fullest. She even tried to beg using the favor I had done for her before, demanding that I step in to help them. Her shouting could be heard throughout the entire office floor. Claire, you can't just stand by and do nothing. When you gave me money back then, you didn't say it would be like this. She stirred up some anger in me. Looking down at Joanna, who was throwing a tantrum on the floor, I said sharply, when I supported you and gave you money, it was to help you become a better talent, someone more useful to society and the country. Not to lose your mind, take shortcuts, go down the wrong path, steal someone else's husband, and destroy someone else's family. But I do thank you, actually. You took away a scumbag from me and helped me gain control of 2 companies. Thank you. Now go be happy with your Ethan. Claire's pointed red-soled shoes passed right in front of her. The red reflected in Joanna's eyes like a pool of blood. She had lost utterly and completely. 2 streams of tears unknowingly ran down her face. Kevin's eyes flashed with contempt, not a trace of pity. She had brought this all on herself. He pushed the distraught Joanna out with increased force. In the past 6 months, Ethan never once visited Leo and Tina. Let alone his parents-in-law. Now that he's fallen on hard times, he wants to come back and enjoy the warmth of his wife and children by the hearth. You must be out of your mind. I scolded him without a shred of mercy. Ethan lowered his head, putting on a good-natured look as if willing to take whatever I threw at him. I remained unmoved. After Ethan went bankrupt, Joanna abandoned the children and took his last assets abroad. No one could be found anymore. Ethan had no choice but to come to the old house with his infant child, seeking help. He even tried to remarry me. Where are Leo and Tina? Why don't I see them? Seeing that I didn't respond, he looked toward his mother. After all, Ethan's biological mother, with a look of reluctance, still answered him. He went to the U.S. to attend a summer camp. His father stood nearby with a sullen face, silent. But I understood their attitude. After all, he was their own son. Even if you break the bone, the tendon remains connected. It's impossible to completely sever ties. It's just that I never want to see Ethan again. All he left me with were painful, nauseating memories. I stood up. Mom, Dad, I'm going to be very busy from now on. I'll be moving out of the old house temporarily to live in that apartment downtown. As for everything else, do whatever you want. Claire, my mother-in-law, called out to me. I didn't look back and turned away from the old house. I wasn't lying when I said I was busy. Leo and Tina were having a great time in the U.S., and I wanted to finish my work early. Then I could spend some time playing with them. Every day, Ethan would come by with nourishing soup, whispering sweet nothings, trying to win my heart. But in my eyes, he just wanted to regain control over both families. There was no way I'd fall for that. Besides, you're already old, Ethan, and not even good-looking. I have plenty of fresh, young men at my fingertips. Do you really think I'd still be interested in you? Claire, you. Ethan stormed off in anger. I looked at the nourishing soup on the table. Kevin, don't waste it. Take it and drink it. Boss, I've been drinking so much soup lately that I've gained weight. After spending a long time together, even someone as meticulous and rigid as Kevin would joke with me occasionally. I lifted my eyelids and looked at him seriously. A little chubbier looks better, you were too skinny before. There was no movement across from me for a long time, so I glanced up. The young boy's face was as red as a monkey's, but since that day Ethan left the company, he never came back. I felt relieved. I hadn't paid attention to the old mansion or Ethan's whereabouts for a long time either. Until that day, Kevin reported to me that Ethan was caught stealing documents from the Caldwell family and was kicked out by his parents. I smiled faintly. You reap what you sow. I raised my hand and put on the sunglasses hanging on my chest. The boarding announcement echoed in my ears. These filthy matters have nothing to do with me anymore. And I am boarding a flight to the United States to visit my child, and along the way, begin my beautiful life.